It's good to be with you. I bring my wife's regrets and apologies, but we live in half of a brick duplex at Brookline, which was built in 1875, and we have a narrow, winding staircase from the second to the first floor. And about 5 weeks ago, she missed a step and busted her ankle. It's healing, but she was very active, particularly this past weekend, on behalf of a certain candidate for the United States Senate. Knocking on doors all over the Commonwealth, and she's really hurting folks and has been advised to get off it for a while. So she regrets that she's not here, but she was a huge fan of Jack's, and in fact was very proud of the fact that she delivered the Bedford Spirit of Democracy sermon in his honor 8 years ago. So what am I doing here? I thought the world of this guy. Now, we had some common interest. I, too, was a trumpet player. First chair, Brookline High School Band, 1951. I was not a second baseman, I was a catcher. But we both loved baseball. But I've just celebrated my 79th birthday, field 29. Kitty will be celebrating her 76th the day after Christmas, and she's the best, still the best looking Medicare recipient in America. But we both were in high school in Brookline in the early 50s. Then went off to school, came back. And especially for the younger people here, you have to understand what this country was like in the 1950s. What Boston was like in the 1950s. I've always loved this city, but Boston in those days was racist, it was anti-Semitic, it was dirty, it was declining, it was angry. African Americans couldn't live in the town of Brookline. In fact, they couldn't live, Victor, on this side of the railroad tracks in Boston. Over there, not over here. They could work over here, but they couldn't live over here. And Kitty and I, and lots of us in those days, thought there was something wrong with this picture. We were running around the world talking about ourselves as the capital of the free world in this fight against godless communism, but here at home, these expressed values didn't seem to match the reality at all, and I'm not talking about Birmingham. I went to Swarthmore in 1951. Didn't know a Quaker from a Shaker. Had never been out of New England. The barber shops in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, 9 miles southwest of Philadelphia, wouldn't cut the hair of black kids. The United States of America. Never one to ignore the opportunity to combine my commitment to social justice with economic opportunity. I became the campus barber. We boycotted the barbershops. And I did so without a license. Don't tell the barber board in Pennsylvania. I value my reputation for integrity. But that was the world that Kitty and I grew up in. And at the same time, in the 50s, there was a fellow named Joseph R. McCarthy, a United States Senator from Wisconsin, who not only questioned the patriotism of thousands and thousands of Americans, but people were scared to death of him. And then, as you've heard, we had this terrible conflict over the Vietnam War. But there was a voice that spoke up. And he was tough as nails. And there weren't many people at that time, folks, willing to speak out about McCarthyism about this hysteria that was gripping the country. People say to me, have you ever seen American politics so polarized? Well, how about the Civil War? Kind of polarizing. McCarthyism and the McCarthy period. And a lot of people that should have known better and done better were silent, cowed by this guy. Not Jack. Not Jack. And as Kitty and I were courting and deeply in love, we still are, we'll celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary next year. She Jewish, I Greek Orthodox. Every once in a while, Victor would slip into the Arlington Street Church. And I remember one of those times in particular. I think it was Christmas Eve. Did he have a service on Christmas Eve? I think he did. He was talking about Billy Budd. I'll never forget that sermon. But we loved being there, the two of us, listening to him, inspired by him. And he had an enormous influence on us. It had a lot to do with my getting into politics. Couldn't listen to him and remained passive very long. I wore my Obama tie in his honor today. How he would have loved last Tuesday. And I think he was worried. We were all worried. But think about it. An African American being re-elected to the presidency of the United States. New Americans now beginning to assert themselves politically. Thousands, millions of Americans who for all kinds of reasons had to live with discrimination, coming of age politically, and combining. Oh, what was a great day. You know, we throw terms around a lot. This person's great, that person is great. I've had the great good fortune in the course of my life and political career to meet all kinds of wonderful people. But I don't talk about a great man or a great woman very often. Jack was a great man.
When Jack had his first stroke in September 2006 and spent time recovering in Emerson Hospital in Concord, I did not want him to be alone after family and friends were sent home. I knew that, in one sense, Jack was always alone because he stood so firmly and finely in what he called the ultimate solitude of his soul. Each of us, Jack said, has an impenetrable center where we find our deepest convictions and stand alone in creation. Jack gave us the courage to find and enter this supreme aloneness and vulnerability by example. But I didn't want Jack to be alone in Emerson Hospital. In the universe, okay. In creation, okay. But in the hospital, no way. So I sent him someone who could not be turned away by hospital staff after visiting hours ended. Judith told me what happened when he received my gift. He couldn't imagine what was inside the box, Judith said. And when he opened it and saw the teddy bear, he simply said, "Gosh, gosh, isn't that something?" He had received gifts of books, Judith said, but she now realized, she confessed, that what he really wanted was a teddy bear. When Jack and I got together a few months later, Jack told me how much he liked the teddy bear, but he expressed concern because the teddy bear didn't have a name. "What should I name him?" Jack asked me. "Not to worry," I said. "Sooner or later, Teddy Bear will tell you his name. You must simply listen intently, and one day he will whisper his name to you." When I next saw Jack, he smiled and said, "The teddy bear told me his name." Jack told no one the teddy bear's name. Some names are too sacred to be spoken. Whenever we met, Jack would bring Teddy Bear along with him. I think Teddy Bear enjoyed riding around with Jack rather than having to walk around all by himself. Perhaps human souls are destined to be ultimately alone, but not teddy bear souls. They need to be hugged all the time. As the years went by, Jack grew weaker. So Judith rearranged the bedroom, since he now spent so much time in bed. To create more space, Judith took the teddy bear off the bureau along with some of his other mementos and put them in the hallway. When Jack awakened and looked around the room at this newly arranged environment, the first thing he said was, "Where's the teddy bear?" Judith brought Teddy Bear back into the room so that Jack could see it all the time. When Judith told me this story last week, she said Jack was a book lover and a humanist, but Jack himself was a teddy bear. He was a very gentle soul. I loved Jack, not just because of his wise words, because they touched my mind and made me think about what it truly means to be a liberal in an illiberal age. I loved Jack because he touched my soul and made me feel reverence. Jack always knew that even in his own warm home, as he put it, he was but on a visit. So he chose to pass on to his wife, his children and grandchildren, his friends, his parishioners, his colleagues and associates, that which is eternal in him, which is love. His teddy bear heart is present in our teddy bear heart, now and evermore.